Man, what a game. The Green Bay Packers are back, beating the fraudulent Vikings football team 41-17. Not to mention 14 of those points were in garbage time. So pretty much 41-3, keeping their playoff hopes alive and pretty much putting the ball in their own court in order to make the playoffs. As I say time and time again, it's not about how you start the season. It's about how you finish it. And the Packers have won 4 straight games going into week 18 against the Detroit Lions, who are also 8-8, who the Packers have already lost to in the season in Lambeau for a spot at the 7th seed in the playoffs. We can all agree that this season did not start well. There was a lot of issues with this Green Bay Packers team, mainly consistency on offense, on defense, on special teams. But man, that has changed a ton. If we look at the game week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings, that was an entirely different football team than what we just saw. This was the most complete game by the Green Bay Packers all year against an opponent who, yeah, sure, their point differential is one of the worst in history for a winning football team in terms of their record, and they were 12-3. They're still a good football team, and the Packers went out there and handed them the business. There's just so much that happened in this game, and I'm just so hyped right now, but here is all my instant reactions to this game. You know what? For this one, I'm going to start talking a little bit about special teams. Although there was a blocked punt, there was something even bigger right after that. Our first kickoff return touchdown since the season of 2011, where Randall Cobb returned that kick return week 1 against the Saints, where John Kuhn held him up. We finally got a kick return touchdown by none other than Keyshawn Nixon. This guy has been a godsend. I don't know how many times I can say this. I sound like a broken record. I keep talking up Keyshawn Nixon ever since he came into the building and then took over on special teams as a returner. This guy has stepped up to the plate in every way, shape, or form. Not to mention today, he was questionable with a groin injury. This dude didn't practice all week, and groin injuries are super hard to come back from, especially on a short notice like that. They can flare up at any time, and you're stuck not playing. This dude went out pregame, warmed up, did what he needed to do, came into this game and returned a kickoff return for a touchdown after a horrible blocked punt where the defense really stepped up, holding the Vikings to the field goal there, which ended up being their only real points for their offense, in my opinion. But yeah, I just cannot give enough praise to this new special teams unit under Rich Bisaccia, with Keyshawn Nixon returning, even Pat O'Donnell punting, and Mason Crosby hitting what was a 56-yarder in the cold. Silver Fox before the end of the half, hitting the crossbar, it going in. Money Mason. Next up, I want to talk about the defense. And man, I have a lot to talk about because I went into this game thinking, okay, Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers in the NFL. We can all agree on that, right? And you go, okay, you're not going to shut him down, but you can at least hope to contain him. And the way by doing that would be mirroring your best cornerback on Justin Jefferson. And man, was I wrong, but it was a good thing that I was wrong because Jair Alexander, man, I thought it was a little crazy talk, him saying, oh, week 1 was a fluke. And I was like, all right, Jair. But man, Jair shut down Justin Jefferson and probably did one of the most savage things I've seen all year is hit the gritty on Justin Jefferson in the what was the first quarter after a pass breakup. I say right foot creep, walking with that heater. Look around. And then proceeds to shut him down for the rest of the game. Jefferson did end up with 1 catch, but when I was watching that, it was a deep in-stop route on a cover 3 defense where Jair was playing cover 3 outside shade. He wasn't covering an in-breaking route, which that's exactly what it was, and it looks like it was Adrian Amos' zone, and he was just a little bit late to get there. I don't think that was on Jair Alexander. We'll see what PFF says if that was on Amos or Jair. I'll be willing to bet it was on Amos. So at this point, Jair held Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers in the league, who torched them in week 1 to 0 receptions and 0 yards and about 7 helmet throws. This defense made light work of this Minnesota Vikings offense and made Kirk Cousins look like primetime Kirk Cousins. 18 of 31, 205 yards, 1 touchdown, which was garbage time, and 3 interceptions, a 49.2 quarterback rating. Huge shout out to Darnell Savage on his 75-yard interception return for a touchdown. This dude was benched earlier in the year, fighting to get snaps, comes in, right place, right time off a tip, and takes it all the way 75 yards for a touchdown. Shout out Bear Delaware. Shout out Darnell Savage. I'm a big supporter of him, so it's really nice to see him, get such a big play in this game. And the Packers did pretty well against the run as well, only allowing 102 yards, so almost held them under 100 yards. The reason they had over 100 was Kirk Cousins ran for 37 of them when it was broken, man-to-man coverage, and Kirk Cousins had a wide open, lane up the middle of the field. But Alexander Madison was their leading rusher, 8 for 38, and they shut down Dalvin Cook. 9 for 27, a 3.0 average. Dalvin Cook, also a very, very good running back in the league. And I said this before my stream started. If you contain Justin Jefferson, which they did more than that, and you contain Dalvin Cook, which they did more of that, you're going to easily win this football game, and that's exactly what happened. Super, super proud of this defense. If we look at receiving for the Vikings, Jalen Naylor had 3 receptions, 89 yards, and a touchdown, but all garbage time. I'm going to put an asterisk next to that. That doesn't even count, in my opinion. KJ Osborne was their main focal point on offense next to TJ Hawkinson. Osborne had 7 receptions, 59 yards, and a touchdown. Touchdown also in garbage time from Nick Mullins. Hawkinson was, doing really well against us in terms of, the middle of the field, but Devondre Campbell, I think, pretty much held him in check. He didn't really, beat us or anything. Obviously, the Vikings really only scored 3 points against our starting defense. And outside of that, we see Dalvin Cook, 2 for 17, Adam Thielen, 1 for 16, and then the best of all, Justin Jefferson, 1 for 15 on 5 targets. The things Jair Alexander was doing to Justin Jefferson at the line is something I have never seen happen. Man, what a game. Hats off to Jair Alexander. Also, the strip, sack, fumble recovery by Kenny Clark when the Vikings seemingly were starting to move the ball. And we've seen what they've done in games prior this year where the second half comes around and they start to figure things out and they start coming back. And they've done it against the Colts, 33-point comeback, the biggest comeback in NFL history. So, you're kind of worried at that point. The Vikings are starting to move the ball again. And yeah, the Packers are up by a lot at that point, but you still worry. And Kenny Clark shuts him down in the Packers' territory, strip, sack, fumble recovery, and at that point, it was pretty much over. The Vikings were spent at that point. I thought Adrian Amos had a really, really good game as well. Probably his best on the season. This dude was flying around. He had the interception, a tackle for loss, 2 pass breakups, 8 total tackles. Really good game by Quay Walker as well. This dude was also flying around. Pulling WWE moves on some of the players on the Vikings. Just a really good game by this defense. TJ Slayton, amazing game. Devontae Wyatt played really well. Just all over this defense. This played super well. They were flying around to the ball, something we haven't really seen much earlier in this year. Just a really all-around sound performance by this defense. Then moving over to the offensive side of the ball, it was nothing crazy, but it was enough to get the job done on top of the kick return touchdown, the pick 6 touchdown. They got the job done. They finished out the game. They chewed the clock when they needed to. They ran the ball well, and they threw also when they needed to in crucial third downs. Aaron Rodgers, 15 of 24, 159 yards, and 1 passing touchdown, also a rushing touchdown, which I was just so hoping he was going to hit the gritty after that. I would have lost my mind. Aaron Rodgers, a 95.7 quarterback rating, and then rushing the ball. Aaron Jones, what a day. I feel like anytime he touched the ball, he was gaining 8 yards, and that's exactly what it was. A 7.9 yards per carry, 14 carries, 111 yards. A.J. Dillon, some tough running, ran over Harrison Smith, and that's not an easy thing to do on the goal line, running over Harrison Smith, and the next play pushing the pile for a touchdown. 12 carries for 41 yards and 1 touchdown. Pat Taylor also came in at the end, filled in a little bit there, 5 carries for 10 yards, and of course the Aaron Rodgers had the 1 carry for a touchdown, and where he gave his coveted rushing pump fake where the defender always bites on it. Aaron Rodgers just walked into the end zone. As for receiving, nothing really stands out in terms of, a breakout game by anyone. There was no Christian Watson deep ball that got caught or something like that. There was a deep ball thrown to him, really good coverage by, I think it was Shelley on the Vikings there, and it was broken up. But Allen Lazard, 5 for 59, 0 touchdowns. Robert Tonyan, 3 for 52. I guess that was a breakout, you could call it. Robert Tonyan, shades of 2020, running an inside route, seeing that corner wide open, breaking it off into a corner route, raising his hand going, Rodgers, throw it up, I'm wide open. We've seen that many times in 2020 where he broke off his route, ran it to a corner, and this dude was wide open. That's exactly what that was on that touchdown, that 24-yard touchdown. Nice game by Robert Tonyan. Randall Cobb, 2 for 20. Couple really clutch catches, though, on third downs. I believe the one was where he basically caught it, got upfield, got the first down. Romeo Doubs, 3 for 20. Christian Watson, only 1 for 11. Did have, I think, 1 or 2 drops. He does have a hip injury. He's probably not 100%, but I still give major respect for him coming out, being able to play in this game, and let alone just be a decoy. Even if you aren't 100%, you're still making the Vikings worry about your deep ball, your deep presence. They threw one to him where he's a good defense, and Aaron Rodgers threw another one on a double move on Pat Pete, and he threw it out of bounds, but Christian Watson did have a step on him, and then earlier in the game, it was overthrown on Watson on a sluggo route, but he kind of got held on the top of that sluggo route, which both Watson and Rodgers wanted the flag thrown, but it wasn't. But nonetheless, they still had to respect Christian Watson, so it was really good seeing him out there. Can't wait for him next week. Hopefully he'll be 100% against the Lions. But yeah, just a all-around amazing game by this Green Bay Packers football team. I know a lot of people, myself included, 5-6 weeks ago, we're going, okay, let's see what we got in Jordan Love for the remainder of the season. And we were even talking about potentially getting like a top 5 draft pick at one point this year. If you've been a part of my channel, that was definitely a conversation. And Aaron Rodgers kept saying, hey, we're not dead yet. I want to play so long we're not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. And that has yet to happen. 4 weeks ago, I think it was, I made a video on how the Packers can make the playoffs, and there was a lot that needed to happen. The Packers needed more than just winning out. That was the first step, winning out, which they've completed 3 of 4 steps now. They still got to beat the Lions to make it to the playoffs, but there was a lot more that needed to happen. Washington needed to lose a few games. Seattle needed to lose a couple, and that's what happened. Today, Ron Rivera was probably the biggest Packers fan, keeping Carson Wentz in that game, and I don't know why, but I'm thankful for it because the Browns, aren't a great team either and ended up beating the Commanders, allowing the Packers to control their own destiny, which started tonight, beating the Minnesota Vikings very handily, and going into next week against the Detroit Lions, win and you're in. We've seen these stories before. Teams sneak into the playoffs at the end of the season as a 6th or 7th seed. Obviously, the 7th seed hasn't been around for a long time, so if that wasn't the case, the Packers definitely aren't making the playoffs. But hey, there's 7 seeds now, and the Packers, with 1 win, sneak in and are that 7th seed. If a team gets hot at the right time, which the Packers are right now, just saying, look out, they're playing complete football. Little bit of shakiness on the offense, but this defense, man. The Vikings are a good football team. Are they 12-4 good in my opinion? No, they're not. But they're still a good football team, and the Packers went out there and made them look like a 4-12 team. But hey, we know they'll still hang their NFC North banner and cheer about that for the next 6 months when they get knocked out of the playoffs in the first round, but that's kind of inevitable for a Vikings fan. That about does it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like down below. Also, if you are new here, want more Packers news, analysis, and updates every single day, go down, hit that subscribe button, and also turn on post notifications. But I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.